Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what is going on? Welcome back. Happy Saturday. I hope you are having a great weekend. My name is Sal. Today we're going to be breaking down this very small and odd scheduling the NBA is doing towards the end of the year, a 2-game slate, 4 teams. I thought it was a 1-game slate, so this was actually a little bit of a pleasant surprise, I guess, to actually be able to cover a 2-game slate. Some people probably will have questions. I know it's an MLB day. I know a lot of people will be focusing on golf. The MLB, 2 slates today. I believe in the MLB, a 6-game afternoon and a 6-game night. Not sure if there's an all-day slate, most likely on FanDuel over Draftkings, I'd imagine. But the 2-game slate, I'll break it down. I know there's some people in the NBA streets last night. It was probably the craziest, as we could have probably predicted with 13 games, but craziest NBA slate of the entire year in terms of just dirt cheap guys going for 50 to 60 points. I mean, you had Mario Hezonja and Wayne Selden, who wasn't as, or Mario Hezonja and DeLon Wright, who both weren't as dirt cheap. But Hezonja was still under 5K. DeLon Wright, 6,500, both dropping triple doubles. You have guys like Ray Spalding at minimum price going for over 50. Bender going for like over 50. You have almost 60 point or 60 point on the nose, I believe. Alex Caruso. There's just a ton of guys that just went completely bonkers last night. And we had scores winning tournaments in the 430 range. If you scored anything below 350, you probably didn't take home too much. So that was a crazy slate. 2-game slate today, so we're not going to see those high of totals. 2-game slates, obviously be cautious with them. Anything can happen. You need to have every single player pretty much if you want to win a decent amount of money. You can't get any duds in your lineup just because the opportunity cost of that is extremely high. In terms of if somebody has a guy who goes for 40 and you don't, it's very hard to find as many people to fill that 40 spot that you just didn't fill, especially if it's at higher ownership. So we'll break down this 2-game slate super quick. Probably will be one of my quickest videos. And then I'm going to probably focus on MLB today. I will not be breaking down in any depth the MLB. I do have a target offense sheet for the MLB up, but in terms of my full projections, I have pitcher projections. In terms of full projections, one, I don't usually use them too often. I don't think they help that much, but if you do want them, I will have them very shortly. They help in terms of just being able to fill out max lineups if you're trying to put them into Fantasy Cruncher or another site. But in terms of just playing or building individual lineups, looking at fantasy baseball projections is probably not the greatest way to go about it. But I will have those if you're somebody who wants to just use them as a baseline. I do have the target offense sheet that is already up. That is on the Discord as well. So get down into the Discord. It's linked down below. It's just like a group texting app or channels and website as well. And then you could also just go to Patreon if you want it. So let's get into it. If you could hit me with a like, probably like 5 people are going to see this video because it's an NBA slate, 2 games when the MLB is in full swing towards the end of the year. Nobody wants to be playing this slate. There's a 50K prize pool though. I was very surprised. That's the only reason I'm really covering this, because I imagine that attracts some people. This 2-game slate, 50K prize pool, 11,000 people will be playing. We'll see if that actually fills today. Doesn't start till 5. All right, so in terms of injury news, pretty much the same stuff we've been seeing for the past week or so out of all of these teams. 4 teams playing today, the Nets and the Bucks. It'll be interesting to see. Giannis said hell no in terms of him resting. He wants his MVP. He wants to play. And that's bad news for the Nets. The Nets who are trying to hang on to a playoff spot, which right now, if we go and look, they might now be the 8th seed. Let's just look at these NBA playoff standings. I believe the Nets might have dropped to the 8th seed. They're still at the 7th seed because the Pistons, I believe, lost yesterday. So they're tied with the 7th and 8th seed. Pretty much the Nets are right now. I guess they have the tiebreaker over the Pistons. And 1 game back is the Heat. So with only a few games left, these Nets have tough games. They still have to play Miami themselves. And they still have to play, I believe, the Pacers. And then they play the Bucks today. So that's just 3 playoff teams. And it's not looking great. So they can get any potential rest out of guys like Middleton, Bledsoe, or Giannis today would be beneficial for them. I doubt you see any sort of Bledsoe rest after being thrown out like 5-6 minutes into the game. Not even, I don't think. But let's get into it. So Zach LaVine remains out. Chris Dunn is doubtful. I'm just going to assume he is out. Otto Porter Jr. remains out. Wayne Selden is probable. So for the Bulls, you're just going to see a ton of dust continue to play, but continue to get decent minutes and be somewhat productive with it. We have now a small sample on Walt Lamont Jr., and he's averaging 1.1 points in these games with all these players off the court. Again, it's like a 3 or 4 game sample, but it's something to note. He is being productive. He is carrying over a 20% usage. And he'll continue to get run here. Jakar Sampson, they have 2 Sampsons on this team now. Jakar has been playing 30 minutes or so in the last 2 games, and he's being absolutely extremely productive. So keep an eye on him in terms of just guys who are going to be lower priced. And on a slate like this, you want to get as many minutes and as many guaranteed points as you can. So what that means is you want to find lower value minutes guys and somewhat productive, right? You want guys going out there playing 28 minutes, like for the most part, a Wayne Ellington on the here and going for 15 fantasy points. But if you can get guys going for those 28 to 32 minutes and getting some sort of production at a lower dollar point, you want to soak those up as much as possible. Again, they'll probably be super popular because of that reason. Everybody knows to really do that. But then you can go up and you can get your guaranteed points out of some of the higher priced people. Turn the volume off. So that's it for the Bulls. We'll get into just players on their team. Joel Embiid is questionable today with a knee. He balled out. Giannis balled out. This is going to be a fun series. If we ever get to see in the playoffs a Bucks-Sixers series, it will be extremely fun. Jimmy Butler is questionable again. Look, if Jimmy Butler's out, you're going to get whatever his name, Jakar Smith. He played a nice, I think, 18 to 20 minutes in the last game, got some nice run. Mike Scott will also see increased run with James Ennis, supposed to be out for at least another 2 weeks. And if Embiid's out, Jonah Bolden should get the bulk of the work at the 5. You'll see some Tobias Harris at the 5, and then a mixture of Boban, Mike Scott, and Amir Johnson. So everything kind of just goes to shit, and you probably want to stick with Jonah Bolden if you're going to be playing anybody. Nice matchup against these Bulls. For the Milwaukee side, Ersan Ilyasova, he is probable today. Again, secondary, tertiary option for this team. Should only see about 15 to 17 minutes. Tony Snell remains out. This is meaningful because you're going to get more increased minutes for Pat Connaughton, who's been continuously playing 30 for about the last 7 games or so on average for this team. And then you're going to get more run for Sterling Brown. Now, here's the thing that worries me a little bit. In the last game, we saw George Hill get 34 minutes, and that's because Eric Bledsoe got ruled out very early. You didn't see Tim Frazier get much minutes as the backup point guard in pretty much that whole game. He got 10 or 11 minutes, which was very interesting. You saw Sterling Brown get some run at the point and play a little bit more than he would have played. I think he played 35 minutes in this game. Now, last game, Bledsoe was out. The game before that, Middleton was out. And the game before that, I believe, was this blowout against the Hawks where none of the guys, or not blowout, just it was a very good game, actually, in terms of just being close and a buzzer beater by Trey. But everybody was out of the starting lineup. So you've had these 3 games where Sterling Brown's got a ton of minutes, over 30. And he has been a productive player, so I imagine they want to continue to get him minutes. But I don't know if he continues to see 30 minutes. I think I have him right now in the projections for 24. And the reason that I have him drop so much, it might be 26. And the reason I have him drop so much is there's been a big 3 starter or 2 or 3, like in the Hawks game, out in each of the past 3 games. I don't know where those minutes are going to be going then. I don't know who they're going to be taking them away from. Pat Connaughton? Do they just cut into each other? So you can see right here, he was playing 26 and 24 minutes. Then all of the players rested and he played 33. Then Middleton rested and he played 36. Then Bledsoe got thrown out minutes into the game and he played 35. I imagine he gets bumped back down to this 26-24 range because all their guys are healthy. He's been in the starting lineup, so maybe Connaughton's the one that gets bumped. You'll have to see. If Brown's going to start, I imagine Brown sees the 30 minutes and then Connaughton gets bumped down closer to 25. And if it's the flip side, then I think Connaughton, if he starts, which he hasn't been starting, he's been coming off the bench, I believe he'll be the guy getting more minutes. But it's something to keep track of for sure. Let's go over to the target offense. Again, this is not a big slate by any means, so this is going to be pretty easy to overall break down. So, again, 2 games, so 4 teams. Nobody's on a back-to-back today. The Bucks have only played 1 game in the last 3 or 4 days, so they're fully rested. Eric Bledsoe getting thrown out. He's even more rested. And they played these Brooklyn Nets, the last game that each team played, or 2 games before. Brooklyn played Toronto in the last game. Just a brutal schedule overall for Brooklyn down the stretch. So, in terms of pace, both games above the league average. The Milwaukee-Brooklyn game well above it by almost 4 possessions. Pace-up spot for Brooklyn. They'll be gaining 3 possessions in this game. It's a 230 total. Bucks have a 119.25 implied total, highest on the slate, virtual tie with Philly. And then Brooklyn has a 110.75 team implied total. 8.5-point spread. The Bucks are favorited here. I imagine everybody goes. Giannis, if he says hell no to a reporter after the last game, I don't think he's going to change his mind in terms of being rested today. I have him in for a full go at 34 minutes. Where we're looking for this game, you attack Brooklyn with Giannis, you attack Brooklyn with Brook Lopez. If we get the news, or if we can just get a confirmed lineup that Giannis is indeed playing, I don't think his minutes will be that limited, if at all. Maybe a minimum of 30 minutes in this game, probably closer to the 32 to 34 that I haven't projected for. Either way, it's a 4-game slate. There's 2 spots to get your big points from today, and that's Joel Embiid and Giannis. Giannis, it's obviously priced that way. I prefer Giannis in this matchup overall. He's pretty much got a floor of 50 here if he just sees some sort of minutes. The game should stay more competitive than this Sixers and Bulls G League squad. Brooklyn actually has to win this game. Milwaukee, not really playing for anything, already locked up the number 1 seed. So that is a little bit of a concern. The Brooklyn side of the ball, You're going to get D'Angelo Russell playing 33 to 35 minutes. I have him projected, I think, for 34 right now. Look, he has to play bigger minutes than his 30 to 32 because they're actually trying to make the playoffs here. They're tied for the last seed right now, or the 7-8 seed right now, with Detroit only a game up on Miami, who they play last game of the season. So this is not by any means, although that 538 is going to be having them 75 or 80% projected to make the playoffs. It does not seem that locked in. Again, they play Miami, so Miami controls their own fate as long as they continue to win if Brooklyn just loses one more game. So now that's obviously a lot saying Miami has to win out, but they do play Brooklyn, so it makes it a little bit easier. Besides all the logistics in terms of where they're going to be trying to perform today, Eric Bledsoe and Chris Middleton. Let me look at the prices. I haven't looked too much into pricing today. Bledsoe 7,300. I think that's fine, a little high. Middleton 7,100. So these prices do come down a little bit. I like Bledsoe over Middleton today, even if the price is a little bit more expensive. I have him projected point per dollar better than Middleton today. But my real interest here is going to be 1 Giannis, 2 Brook Lopez. Attack them with the bigs. Giannis on a 4-game slate has the ability and should have the ability today to go for 60 plus and be the guy that you need to own, especially if we get any sort of news that Joel Embiid is resting today, which I would not doubt by any means. And then it's Brook Lopez for me. Outside of that, Eric Bledsoe would come in third, and then you can kind of throw around. I'd rather have the little value type guys in Pat Connaughton and in a Sterling Brown before I go to Middleton at 7,100 personally. Brooklyn, again, Allen Crabbe, the only injury news here, but he's been out. He remains out. You've been getting big minutes out of Joe Harris, playing 35 in 3 out of the last 4, over 30 in the last 4. Big minutes out of Joe Harris here. I think that he's fine against Milwaukee. Not the greatest of matchups personally for him. But again, if you're getting those big minutes on a slate like this for a guy who is going to be priced down, I believe is he below 5K. Joe Harris is 5,100, so I still think that that's fine on a slate like this when you're trying to get minutes and points out of guys. If you can secure 35 minutes on a slate with a game that has this sort of pace and a 230 total, I would take that all day. I know he's a shooting guard. I know he's very dependent on his scoring. But again, big minutes on a slate, it's hard to find those types of guys, especially in that price range. So outside of that, D'Angelo Russell obviously has interest for me. He's priced up now. He, I believe, is $9,100. He's been hitting that value pretty consistently in terms of 5Xing, 47 in each of the past few games, had some 50, 60 burgers in there. So I think Russell's fine on this slate, but in terms of trying to pay up and allocating my salary, it's going to be prioritizing Giannis, in my opinion. Outside of that, on Brooklyn, don't really want any of Jared Allen. He's been playing 27 minutes or so. Ed Davis is seeing the upper portion of his minutes ceiling around 21, 22 as of late. So I don't want any Jared Allen. It's not the type of matchup that I want to get Jared Allen in either. Brook Lopez is going to be pulled out and shooting threes pretty much the entire game, stretching the 5. That does not help Jared Allen, where he pretty much needs to live down by the basket in terms of getting blocks and in terms of getting extra rebounding opportunities, which won't be there. So that's pretty much it from this game. It's going to be Giannis, it's going to be Brook Lopez, maybe a little bit of Bledsoe, and you can find some value pieces. If Brown or Connaughton's starting, I'd prefer that person who starts. It'd probably be Sterling Brown based on the last few games of the starting lineups. Brooklyn, it's going to be Joe Harris, number 1, based on his price, and then probably goes to D'Angelo. Carroll's minutes are all over the place. I really don't know what to do there. Hollis Jefferson's playing 9 minutes a game. Jared Dudley's playing now 18 minutes a game out of nowhere after being around 10. Trevion Graham's playing 9 minutes a game. There's just a lot of minutes that are just being tossed into the garbage can on this team, and I don't really want to play around with it. The guy who I will mention is Caris LeVert. His minutes have been stable for the past week or so, playing upwards of around 28 minutes on average over that time. He is playing better. This has limited Spencer Dinwiddie's minutes off the bench a little bit as well. Nothing that I really want to touch there. LeVert's price, I believe, is only $5,600. I was going to say it might be above $6K now. It's only $5,600. His price comes down, and you can see right here the minutes have just been up: 28, 29, 30, and 26. He played 30 last time out against the same Milwaukee team, went for 38.5. I don't put that into much weight into that, but again, LeVert has been playing better. And it's good that you see that as the playoffs are coming. Chicago versus Philly. Look, this Chicago team is absolutely dreadful. You're going to get Wayne Selden. You're going to get him playing 30-plus minutes and actually being productive as a 1.1 guy. $5,200. Look, he's $5,200 and Joe Harris is $5,100. Even if Harris plays 2 or 3 more minutes, I like Selden that much more. Selden actually drives, creates his own shot, and will get some peripherals. Chicago, I don't really want, or not Selden, Lemont Jr. I don't really want Selden. His minutes are coming down in due part because of Lemont Jr. Walt doing very well. Robin Lopez minutes are coming down too. Jakar Sampson's another guy that I'll mention. Let's see what his price is. $5,000 flat, and you could look at him. He's been playing 30 and 29 minutes, been absolutely productive with those minutes, averaging around 1.2 fantasy points per minute. Again, it's a small sample size, but he's been playing really well. If a guy like Embiid is out, it's an even bigger bump for him. No real interest out of it on anybody else. Shaq Harrison has been around a point per minute guy, and so is Ryan Arcidiacono, believe it or not, when these guys have been out for the past 2 or 3 weeks. Arcidiacono only playing about 20 minutes a game at this point. Harrison still playing in the 30s. An okay play at 6,200. I haven't built a lineup yet. He might fall into my lineup, so I'm fine with it. But in terms of ranking these guys priority-wise, it's going to be probably number 1 for me, Lemont Jr., number 2, Jakar Sampson, and those guys are really close. It could probably be flipped. Then number 3, Shaq Harrison, and then I'm not really caring too much after that. If we get news that Arcidiacono for some reason is starting, he gets a bump. Again, he's averaging 1 point per minute. Smaller sample, only 100 to 200 minutes. But since all these guys have been out, 1 point per minute guy, if he can go from playing 19 minutes to 29 minutes from starting, I do like that on a 2-game slate. It's a way to be different. If you just want to kind of throw Ryan Arcidiacono in a lineup to be unique and be different, I think it makes sense. A 2-game slate, if you're picking between the Bulls dust, a guy who's a point per minute guy, is pretty good to look at. And again, he's been an awful player all year, like a 0.75 player guy. But since all these guys have been out, production has to get dispersed everywhere, and it has been getting dispersed to him as well. Philly side of the ball. So you get Butler, questionable, hasn't played, I believe, in some games. Or did Butler come back last game? I think he was ruled out, right? Literally 2 nights ago. Against Atlanta. That was 2 nights ago or no? I think he was ruled out, right? I think they played on the 4th. Yeah, they played on the 4th against Milwaukee. So yeah, that was that huge game. That is why Jakar Smith got time. All right, so Butler was out in the last game. Keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on Embiid. I have a feeling that Embiid, if they're going to put him questionable, there's a good chance he rests today. Philadelphia is pretty much locked into the 3 seed, and they're playing the Chicago team. There's really no reason for anybody to play here. If you get news that Embiid is out, I want a lot of Ben Simmons here against the Chicago team. Ben Simmons is going to be a 1.3 fantasy point per minute guy. If Embiid goes out, he should see around 36 minutes. You can do the math on that one. You can get an average of around 45 fantasy points, which is what he's priced at. But again, on a 2-game slate, anywhere you can get 40-plus points, you take it. And if Embiid would be out, between him and Russell, I take Ben Simmons there. Again, Russell would be the guy playing for something, so it is a little bit scary in terms of Russell's motivation will be much higher. But if Simmons is playing the whole game, there's no reason why he can't just go ballistic here. The game should not stay close by any means, but there's a very real chance that the Brooklyn game doesn't stay close if all Milwaukee's guys are going. So keep an eye on that. Outside of that, you can throw your darts with some guys, right? If Jimmy Butler remains out, you're going to get Smith, who's only 3,200. He's going to be playing probably around 16 minutes. He had 18 in the last game, a game that was very high scoring, a game that he saw 4 personal fouls in as well. So if that had any impact, he did come in and just kind of give away fouls though. So yeah, 18 minutes in the last game, not somebody I'm dying to play, but if you can get 15 fantasy points out of a guy at 3,200 on a 2-game slate, and that allows you to get an Embiid and Giannis in your lineup, it could be worth it if we see what we saw the other night when both go for 80+. Outside of that, options that are nice in terms of just the price points, let's go and find Jared Dudley's 3,200, and he's been playing minutes as of late. And by minutes, I mean in the 20s. Look, he's absolutely dreadful in terms of fantasy point per minute production. He's like at 0.6. He's terrible. The matchup here isn't great. But if you're looking for somebody who will actually get floor time and potentially do something with it, he's there. But I'm not trying to recommend any of those guys down there. Look, we can go back to this. Philly side, it's really Ben Simmons. He has a fantastic matchup at 9K, and I'm more so intrigued to get there if Embiid is out. If Embiid is in, it's going to be tough for me to get anywhere. I'm going to try and get up to an Embiid and Giannis line once again. Might not be able to do that with limited player pool. No real interest in JJ Redick. If Embiid and Butler are out, then I get some interest in JJ Redick, who also has a great matchup. The way that this slate, a 2-game slate, is working for me, I want to be a little bit different, but I don't want to get carried away here, right? So I like Giannis. That's not being different. I like Brook Lopez. That's probably not being different, especially if you get any sort of news here that Joel Embiid is out. Brook Lopez is by far and away the best center on the slate when you compare him to guys like Jakar Sampson, his brother Robin Lopez, and even Jared Allen, who's just been a dumpster fire. Brooklyn side of the ball, Russell, Joe Harris. Outside of that, you can throw a dart on FanDuel maybe with a Jared Dudley. Levert a little bit as well. His price is nice. So those are the 5 guys from that game. Chicago, I'm focusing on Lamont Jr. I am focusing on Jakar Sampson and some Shaq Harrison. You can go Wayne Selden. You can go to these other guys if you want to be different. I think it makes sense. And the Philly side, it's Ben Simmons all day for me if we get news that Embiid is out. If Embiid and Butler is out, it's Ben Simmons even more. And then I think Zayari Smith becomes a nice drop option in terms of a low salary for FanDuel, becomes a nice dart throw on DraftKings. And I think I see a nice bump for JJ Redick there. Tobias Harris, not really a guy I want to get to here. So that's it. I don't have to go over early interest because I just did right there. So that was it. Hopefully that video was somewhat quick. I'm going to post it, get it up. I know not a lot of people are really going to be interested in this. It's a 2-game slate, but maybe there will be some because there is $50K on the line, at least up for grabs today. So thank you guys. Thank you, girls. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Sal. You already know that. Best of luck today. Drop a comment if you watched the whole thing. Hit me with a like button. Hit me up on Twitter with any questions you have. Yeah, this was fun. Peace out.